Hey guys, and welcome back to another live stream. In this live stream, we are going to be going through some AFL, and we're going to be going through, especially with preseason really starting to heat up. We're going to be able to, in the next, I think, week or so, with the practice games that are being that have actual stats, we're going to be able to get a really good insight into what's going on with player roles and everything. A lot of things have changed in the last week. I know for my team particularly, and I'm pretty sure other teams as well, there have been a lot of changes. So I'm pretty sure if I get the time tomorrow, we'll be presenting another video for you, another couple of videos that will come out on the weekend regards to my AFLW side, and then just going through the ruck line as well and doing that. And then we will also talk about the forward line in another standalone video on the probably Thursday next week or so, and then that'll be that, and we'll have a lot more data to really go off in the coming few days, I would say. But anyway, let's just jump into it, go through the news from the last a little bit, and then we'll jump from there, I guess. So anyway, let's jump into it here. So if we go to that one there, is it? We will jump across to, I believe it is that one. Nope, it is that one there. That's the right one. We've got just Essendon in the men's doing things, as well as if we jump across here, you've got all of the, let's look at it here, I've got a lot of things saved here to run through over the weekend to sort of make notes and stuff like that. Got to actually take the time to do the notes and stuff like that. But we can see here that this is the projected Port Adelaide best 22 from free kick. And yeah, there is definitely some opportunities there, I would say. And then you've got some other things. And then, yeah, here's probably the first bit of news over the week from Didac himself. And this really, the big discussion, I think, this week, and I'd love to hear your guys' sort of comments in this live, is just around the ruck line and what you guys are doing. I know that I will put, as I said, the video out, etc., around it, and my sort of thoughts. But it's a very, very interesting line, especially with the Geelong injury report that came out. Geelong Cats, let's get their AFLW injury report out for you guys and bring it up, because I thought that was a rather interesting one for it. So if we can go, where would it be? It would be Health Hub, I'm guessing. Latest from AFLW. Here we go. We grab this up and we look at the AFLW injuries for the likes of Geelong, and you can see Amy McDonald is fine, will be available for their next, after their match sim against St Kilda, so will be available for their practice match against Gold Coast, which is good to see. Then you've got Fowler, a chest injury, Gabby Featherstone, a hamstring injury, and then you've got Chloe Shear and Katie Tipping, an injury. And now, if we go over back across to the AFLW Fantasy, and then we go to and type in Tipping, you'll find that she is one of the popular-ish ruckman. Well, not anymore. She was 2.1% owned because a lot of people have moved her on, and a lot of people have moved directly. If we actually, it would be better if I just put this and sat it on the ruck line. If we go to all prices, 300K, and we go here, and we look, a lot of people have maneuvered around in the ruck line. Dunlop and Tipping, who I'm actually surprised a lot of people haven't maybe flicked to them, because they're probably two of the more common ones alongside Murphy that I've seen in more sort of credible sources and stuff like that. So maybe it's just because they don't have a face or something in the game that they don't have as much ownership. But I'm really surprised, because if you were to have seen preseason or anything like that, any conversation with me, I probably would have said Murphy, due to her being traded in to cover an ACL, I believe it was. And then Tipping was a 191 centimeter ruckman that was looking the goods in as well. And then you would have had Dunlop as well. And yeah, so in preseason, before Tipping's injury, you would have had those three, would have been probably the top three rookie rucks that I would have even discussed. And now with Tipping being out injured, you basically have Dunlop and Murphy, and it Murphy the role doesn't seem as clean cut, I would say, as Dunlop's role does at the moment. And we know Tipping's injury, 6 to 8 weeks. We know that the AFLW is only a couple weeks away. So that means if we just do a process of elimination, Dunlop should, in theory, get roughly 4 to 6 weeks in the ruck role, which is just enough in a solo-ish ruck role to do a lot of damage in terms of cash generation. So that's why I really would be considering her over everything at the moment. But obviously, things do change. We'll see a better chance to look at roles in the match on the weekend that they have against, who was it again? Against the likes of Gold Coast. So there's that on the injury front, well, the ruck front and the injury front for Geelong. And so, yeah, that could be interesting. And just a touch on Fowler, I believe, as well. Didn't play in the ruck as the preseason as well. So you can basically rule her out. Hardingham is 22-year-old young ruck for Western Bulldogs, but they have Edmund there. So you can basically just rule her out. So that rules those two out. And then you've got Murphy as well, the next big sort of cheap ruckman. And then I think you would have to go up into the 400K because Harris is currently in that 416. And if I'm correct in saying this, I might also want to bring up the Gold Coast Suns and then bring up their, as people are saying here, this is something to watch. And you were almost speaking exactly what I was thinking, is that we need to also bring up the injury list for the women's side of things. How do I grab that for teams? AFLW, maybe it's in here. Injury update. Yes, here we go. Lauren Bella, short-term calf injury. And this sparked a lot of conversation last night, I would say, when this, I think, came out. Yeah, it came out 3:20 on the Tuesday. So on a lot of us for the drive home and into the Tuesday night, that was a lot of conversation. It's just like, how long is this short-term injury? If it doesn't, I swear there was an article that was put out, but I'm not 100% sure on that front. AFLW, etc. Is there any article from them? It's probably on their Twitter page or something of that regard with that, because I want to say people said that she would be touch and go for for the round one. Let's go to Suns AFLW. Let's just see. Do they have it here? Gold Coast Suns, and I want to say this is probably going to factor in both the men's and the women's here. So let's just see if we can grab it up for you guys. And let's just see. I don't know if there's anything here. And unfortunately, maybe this one is the one that they grabbed off of it. So let's just look at it. Doesn't look like it there. And so, yeah, there was a lot of conversation about it. And I don't know if there's an article, but in particular, but there was definitely conversation about how long is that that injury for the likes of Lauren Bella. And because from what we've seen in training for Harris is that she's playing full forward and she has been a ruck. We showed the stats last week. I can show them again, etc. For her. She has ruck before. So is it a case that she gets one game? And I did spout something of a, and I know I don't want to bring up almost the exact words that I used with her with regards to Harris last night, and basically said that you can almost use her as a way to be able to get to the best player, best rookie, I should say. Because yeah, if she has a stinker at an elevated price, you'll be able to easily flick to the highest scoring rookie. This is under the presumption that the likes of Lauren Bella is out injured for at least round one. And then most of us will have a 3 ruck, a ruck in the utility, I should say. And then that ruck can effectively go to R2 if you had Harris in R2 or Harris in the utility. And then you can move, you basically get free reign. Best rookie available. It's odds on going to be a midfielder like it usually is, but that is the way in which you're probably going to be able to get the best rookie, and you're not going to miss out on her because of the elevated price of Harris, because Harris at 400K, let me just show you exactly what I mean by that. If Harris puts up a stinker, goes up 20, 30K, you're going to have 430K effectively here. And most rookies, if they have a really good game, go up by, say, 100K. and say you have, because a lot of us will have sort of 150K or so, 50 to 100K. If you have 50 to 100K, plus a rookie goes up from 350 to 450, then you'll be able to cover it with Harris very, very easily. Whereas if you have sort of a 300K player that fails here, and this is why I've been saying this a lot, is that I don't like these 300K flat players, because if they fail, you can awfully get stuck with them, or almost lose a week of things or lose a week on being able to upgrade to a mid-pricer or something like that, or sideways some of your failing players, etc., to players that are in better roles, just because you picked that 300K player and you're more locked into your structure and you have less flexibility. I think that's going to be the key word for me this whole preseason is flexibility, and some more flexibility, because, I just think that is key in the AFLW, just given how quickly things move. So, that's that. Do we have anything else in the bookmarked section for you guys here? And just looking through, talk to McGrath is one that I think is interesting. West Coast do tend to mix up their ruck line a little bit more than most teams. If we just jump across to the West Coast named rucks, let's jump out of this and go to the ruck line and the West Coast Eagles, you'll see that they have Wakefer, Lakay, McGrath, and then Riggs down there as well. What it's looking at the moment of being is a McGrath and Wakefer combo and Lakay forward, I think, or McGrath and someone, and McGrath and maybe Laker and Wakefer forward, I think, from memory, from what I've seen. But I definitely know the primary was McGrath, but it's just that threat of a Lakay coming back into the ruck that is just like, maybe you go someone else. Maybe you go the McKinnon, who might end up having another partner there. If we go to the Richmond ruck line and you see Kelly there, you've also got, I think Seymour's done some ruck time in the past as well. So it's definitely, as Corey corrects me here, you can see Leclerc and McGrath there alongside Wakefer forward. I thought that was the case, to be honest with you. But you can see a lot of these 500K, 400K, 300K rucks. It's just that they doesn't feel like they're going to get that solo ability. But if they do get that solo ability, McKinnon didn't play last year. But if we just look at McKinnon here, you'll see that obviously we're going to get a mad discount from her not playing last year. If we just do this one here, I think that's, am I right in doing that? Yep. So if we look at that, season 8 at Adelaide, and she had 46 points per game on 50% CBAs, and we are getting her for 520K, which I believe is an average of 40. But I could be wrong. It might be a little bit less than that. But you can see here when she does get a decent amount of ruck time is when she scores well. 66, she scored an 89, 50, a 34, any other 57, 49, etc. When her big scores are 77 or 44%. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the likes of a McKinnon pop as well. So that's someone to definitely watch in that space, in that R1 role, because one thing that I do think will happen, I do think we will get a shrinkage of the gap in the ruck line if we actually show you what I mean in terms of that. We see that Strom is 30 points better than the next best ruck, but I think that could easily come down to 20, 25 or so, which would shrink it quite a lot and mean that Strom's value isn't as crazy as it was last year. It was game breaking last year. So that'll be a lot better. I mean, we do have Moffat back, which should help out. And I think it also will shrink the other ruck scores in general. If we go here, she averaged 88 pretty much in season 8. So if she's back to her best, then we're bound to have that shrinkage already to 24 points. And I think Strom's going to go down anyway to sort of that 105 range. And that could already shrink it down to in and around that 15-point gap, which it still is big, don't get me wrong, because you have the one ruck, but it's not as big as the 30 points that it was last year. So that's a big change that I think will happen. And as you can see here, the Murphy Murphy behind Dyke, and Dyke doesn't seem to be able to score. If we look at Dyke's stuff here, I think it's that one. Let me just check with, I probably got the wrong one. They've got both of them. Okay. Matilda Dyke. I hope I picked up Matilda. Yeah, you can see Matilda Dyke, 46% CBAs, 70% TOG for 35. So, and when she does have the ruck time, 74% ruck and 68% ruck, she went to 42 and 32. So you can kind of see she doesn't have any scoring fluctuation basically because of ruck. And yeah, that kind of does suck a little bit. But maybe she does pick it up a little bit, but I don't think she will, to be honest with you. So that's the ruck line there. And then you've got some other stuff here. That was on after our live stream last week. And then you've got, no Ash Centra from their game on the weekend. So that'll be interesting to see where she plays, but we expect her to be one of the better rookies. One player that did absolutely stand out, and you probably would have heard it countless times, was Zippy Fish. She is an absolute lock. And the only question left between her and Centra basically is, who do you field? I would almost lean to fielding Fish, to be honest with you. I think she does have the ability, if she is off that halfback, to score that 70 points per game. Whereas I just don't know with Centra if she can do it. I know her junior numbers are outstanding, but I just wonder if Centra will score that sort of 55, 60, which will still be great as a rookie, but it won't be as sort of that 70 or so that Fish has. But that'll be sort of the deciding factor, I reckon. Maybe I just go with the crowd because a lot of people will just go Centra that week one, and then we go from there and look at that. But I think that is basically the sort of almost a catch up a little bit. Then we also see Gone Mad with the comment here that Barnett was rucking and Frederick playing forward for Collingwood this year. That could be interesting for Barnett as a starting forward option. Let's do a deep dive on that one there and sort of go through Barnett's stats here when she does get the more ruck time. They're not, because she's rucked in the past, etc. But when she does get sort of that, does she see an increase in scoring? 48% ruck time for a 58, a 42% and a 45% for a 62 and a 101. And we know that her average last year was a 51.5. So one was her top scoring game was a 37% ruck time where she got 14 hitouts. It doesn't. And just looking here as well, as I see this here, 81, and this was a couple years ago as well, just saying, a 43 and a 54 from 81 and 71% time, ruck time. I think with Barnett, just because we've seen Frederick ruck majority in the past, that I'd rather wait a week and see Barnett score well than trade into, or start her, I should say. I'd rather trade into her after seeing her do well than start her, to be completely honest with you, just based on the numbers that we have. And obviously, this analysis doesn't really include that natural improvement element. Sorry. But I just can't see a compelling case to start Imogen Barnett at 30 years old, potentially starting in the ruck, but we don't know 100%. Over the top of someone who was arguably a top 3 or 4 ruck last year. I think it could easily just be management of Frederick to try and get her through the year, because it felt like she slowed down last year in the back half of the year. So if they can get the loads off her early in preseason and just get her out on the park, then that'll be best for her, is sort of how I viewed that, I would say, rather than it's Barnett taking over the starting ruck role, I should say. So, if we do thoughts on Montana Ham as a Swan supporter, this one's interesting because Ham gives the vibe every damn preseason, like for the last 3 or 4 years. It feels like she's been, what's this now, her 4th year, I want to say. Let's just see, is it 3rd or 4th? 4th year now. You can see she started off on fire in her first game, 67. Everyone would have gone, yep, etc. And then played through the year, etc. And then you can see round 1, season 9, she had a 60, and then all that, etc. Where's the round 3 season? Okay, she was brought back through here, through injury, etc. Brought back slowly, and then finally gets a full run, 53, and then shocks everyone with the 85 7-mark game. She's just shown flashes, and you're just waiting for her to pull it all together. One thing that I will say definitely does help her out is she has got the forward classification, which we know the forward classification, the girls only have to score probably 30 less. If we just look at the numbers for you. If we look at the midfield, they're around about the 100, 101, and I know that some forwards have been taken out of it. But if we just look at the forward line, 58 was top 10. Also, if we just remove this comment for a second here, you can see that with Parry. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's top 10. That's Parry on 58. Whereas if we go into the forward line and we look at the forward line and we look at, the midfield, I should say, and we look at the top 10, that's 96. 96 compared to 58, that's a massive difference. So it sort of shows that the price point that she's at, it's more conducive to her being obviously in the forward line, but the gap is dramatic compared to even just the men's. If you were to look at it, it'd be like 90 or so, 89, somewhere around that marker. And the top 10 midfielder would be around that 100, 105. So it's about 15 points, whereas in the women's, it's around about that 30-pointer. I know that a couple of the forwards from last year that played as midfielders have switched. Like if we just do a quick little look at it, Roberts would have been a midfielder last year. You would have had, who else would have been a forward from last year? You would have had Katie Hoare as a forward last year. You would have had, who else? Just looking quietly here. There would have been more probably down the list a little bit here that would have been classified as forwards. Can't really see. Tripodi would have been classified as a forward last year, and she averaged 63, so she would have jumped into that group. So that's another one. And I can't see anyone else off the top of my head, but that's at least 2 that would have been classified as a forward, bumping up the average. If we just think about it, bumping that average up to 64. So now that's 64. It makes it a little bit better. Probably would have been 65, 66. I probably missed someone. But anyway, the point is that 65, 66 is top 10 forward. And if we think about it, if we put, I think Wardlaw, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wardlaw is about top 6 and would have been top 7 or top 8 if we took everyone as a forward from last year and put them into this. So Wardlaw's 65 is what we're aiming for almost with Montana Ham. And if we just have a quiet look at it, you'll see we do have to scroll a little bit down for Montana Ham. If we actually go to price point, it will give us a better price point. But as you can see with a lot of these girls, if we look at it, they're, as I say, it's probably going to be around that 65, 66. And if we just have a look at Montana Ham, she's only about 180K off, which is only 15, 14 points off. So can she have that 15, 14 point jump? She could with a new role. I just don't know with Sydney their exact positions, because if we find, and this is where I'm going to go, no, not that. I'm going to go back to this one here, the Free Kick podcast, and just show up the Sydney the Sydney lineup that they had initially, and I'm going to give my sort of reasoning behind the why, if I can find it, why I think that they're going to really. You'll see that Sydney will, if I can find it, they really did them early. Here we go. You'll see here. If we look at Sydney, they've got McAvoy, we don't know the exact position of. They've got Fish, we think is halfback or wing. Maloney is a spare midfielder. She's going to play half forward. She's going to play on ball, etc. She's going to play both. You've got Chloe Malloy that can play midfield as well. So that's 2. You've got Cynthia Hamilton, who can play midfield as well. That's a 3rd. And then on the bench, you've also got Montana Ham. That is 4 midfielders outside of Gardner, Hurley, and Kennedy already in the lineup. So that's why Montana Ham and many others like Malloy, we really need to watch that Swans closely, because I wouldn't even be surprised looking at this lineup if McAvoy isn't in the back line. If someone like Malloy is just randomly placed down back there, I know she's a goal-scoring threat, but she's also a really good kick. So I wouldn't be surprised if you just see interchanging as heck positions between McAvoy, Malloy, and Fish between them and stuff. So that's why I really don't know at the moment what Montana Ham's role is going to be. If Ham is playing on ball, and if they move on Kennedy to a halfback or something like that, which they really shouldn't, then I could see it. But she's just sort of there as a placeholder at the moment, because we do have quite a lot of sort of 600K players that I'm intrigued about. But yeah, I can't really give you much about Montana Ham, which is annoying. But she's one that I've waited. She's probably going to break out. I just know I'm going to pick the wrong year to do it, to pull the trigger on her. But she's one that can definitely, she's high impact and not really as many disposals, which is probably a little bit of the annoyance there that you can see here if we just look quietly. 12, 10, 11, 6, 12, 13, 13, 16, 11, 14. What's the highest that I've read out? 17 here. Is that the highest? 20 in her second game. And then you've got 17, 16. So she's had one game of 20 plus and then a couple games of 15 plus. And that's it. Obviously, when she's playing VFL, she's gone 20, 21, 26, 22, and 20. But there's a difference between VFLW and AFLW, obviously. And so I think that Montana Ham really just struggles in terms of a fantasy sense to rack it up. But there's going to be a breakout. I just can't name the year that I reckon it will be this year, but it could be next year. That's the thing that sucks. Just because of, I would be picking her more. I would say I'd be more inclined to pick her if there wasn't 4 other midfielders just playing in different positions for Sydney. Like, even if we just look at this quite quickly, you've got, as I said, Malloy, Maloney, Hamilton, and Ham. But then also we've seen, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that we've seen Lucy McAvoy play a little bit on ball. I could be wrong about that. 0% CBAs, that's a little bit wrong, but we've seen her also when she was playing at Carlton do some CBAs. We've seen her at Sydney have one game where I think she might have had a couple of CBAs yet, 17 and 23. So we've seen another one that can roll through that midfield. So yeah, there's just so many for Sydney that I can't put a sort of a name on it. If Matt Ham will be the lucky one, I guess, to break through, I would guess you would almost say. But anyway, that was a good point to bring up there with regards to Ham. So one thing I want to sort of hear everyone's opinion on, I would say, is what they are sort of doing in the midfield, because I'm rather set on this structure, I would say, of the 3 premiums, the 1 mid-price, I would say, and I would define that range as 700 to 1 million or so, I would say, is a mid-pricer. And then a rookie on field in that M5 and a rookie on field at M6. So if you could, sort of just, if you have a different structure, especially, like if you have a structure of maybe the 4 premiums, the rookie and the rookie on the bench, obviously, then put it in the live comments there and give the reasoning behind it, because I'd really like to see different reasonings about it, because I maybe am a little bit too stuck on this this sort of structure. And so, and I want to hear your thoughts about it as well, because it's good to have, I guess, a differentiating opinions, and good to hear everyone else's opinions on the midfield, because the midfield structure is key. I do obviously have my reasonings behind the midfield structure, that being that I want to have flexibility. I've said it countless times, and I'll say it countless more times. AFLW is about being able to move around quickly and not getting stuck. If you get stuck with rookies on your bench, not making cash, you fall behind quickly. You can't finish off your side. So having flexibility is key, and that's what Press gives me. So yeah, as Corey says, and he's one that's similar to me, and I think this is a very similar sort of point of view, I would say, for a lot of people. Two rookies on field is worse now after hearing different different things, etc. As I want to go cheaper in defense and forward line. And that's something that I probably want. I would have probably flagged a little bit more if I had a little bit more info on the sort of rookie forwards. I would just say, and we'll get to this in a second because I think I have them favorited, etc. And we can run through a little bit about the players there. But I think there are potentials for the 300K defender or 300K, or I should say 300 to 350K defender, 300 to 350K forward. There are definitely people that could, or girls that could fill that role. I am just under sort of more of the opinion that I'd rather trade into that than actually start that, because what about if their preseason form is a fail and they get stuck? That is the big thing there. So yeah, let's just see what other people and look off of here. So only change to the midfield is Amy McDonald instead of Prasparkas, purely because I don't know if Prasparkas goes to halfback. Everything else is the same. Now, that's one thing. You made a good point. I talked a lot about last week about Prasparkas potentially going to halfback. Well, we saw in the preseason game, she played mostly on ball. So that was a positive sign. Obviously, it might change because we do have the likes of Amy McDonald still to come back, which could flick Prasparkas to halfback. But that hopefully won't happen, and hopefully we just get the likes of Prasparkas on ball, because that would be a lot better. But that is definitely a watch, and that's why the good thing about them is they are 9K apart, so you can easily interchange them if you do need to, which is good. And then we've got here from Gourmand as well, I took your Marinoff advice, moved to a 2-rookie ruck, scary, and went Marinoff, Rowbottom, Gardner, Conti, Bowers, but we'll probably change again. Wow, that's the one thing I will say about this strategy going the 5 premium midfielders straight away is if you get one of the midfielders wrong and one of them pops off, you feel kind of like you're already sideways trading to get that one that pops off. Whereas if you are going, for me particularly, let's just say after 2 rounds, Prasparkas goes 80-80 and doesn't really pop off, doesn't really do anything, then I can move her on to either a rookie that's gone crazy or a mid-pricer there that's gone like 100, 110, etc., something of that regard. And that'll be almost considered an upgrade. Whereas if you go sort of, if let's just name names here. If Conti, let's just go Bowers for a second here. 1.159 million. That's roughly about 95. If Bowers is going 95, then you're kind of stuck because you don't really want to move her on because you're almost, let's do it in air quotes, wasting a week of trades almost in a way. So that's why I do think you do need to really consider a rookie or two in your, obviously you're going to have a rookie at M6, but I'd really consider that rookie at M5 and probably just thinking about it, because if you've got so much money in that midfield, you've got Marinoff, Rowbottom, Gardner. So you've got basically Conti for Prasparkas, which is an extra 300K. And then you have got Gardner instead of Centra. That's an extra 900K. So you got 1.2 million less to spend in your, your ruck line is going to be roughly the same in your defense and your and your forward line. And that means you're probably going to get stuck with sort of those halfback flankers that are locked down, or your half forward that don't really touch the ball. And that can really stall cash gen. And that's why I'd almost just say that you're better off dropping to one of the known rookies in Centra and Fish on field to be able to get away. And it's almost like, and I'll expand this out for a second here to show what I mean. If we are to just put someone, this is someone that's been talked about quite a lot, and we'll get to her, we'll get to the favorites in a lot. But let's just say you probably have a Cox here or something, or a Cox here instead of a lot of people, as well as probably a rookie here and like a in the form of maybe even a Ella Brown, I think it is, Eleanor Brown. So maybe you have that. So let's actually just do this so that you can see. So you have maybe a Cox here, and instead of a Gorham, you've got an Eleanor Brown. Well, if those two fail because of the massive amount of cash you've got in here, I'd much rather, and this is almost insane this, I'd much rather spend an extra 100K to get Centra and Centra on field and maneuver the cash that you have in, say, a Conti around to upgrade these sections, rather than having all your midfield almost sorted, because you lose a lot of flexibility in that midfield, because the midfield isn't the same every year in terms of the top scorers. I say that as Marinoff's been the top scorer for like 3 years, but you've got outside, a lot of the changes will come sort of in the in and around. I mean, we saw Gardner drop 12 points and stuff like that. So yeah, I would just be, and I just want to see who's that Smith that you've brought up with regard to Tiana Smith. I'm guessing is probably it for the defenders. If we go here to defenders, Smith, I think that's who you're mentioning, Tiana Smith. I would just be watchful in terms of spending in the areas that you're spending, because yeah, if you spend too much in one area, and also with Swanson, I wouldn't pick her. She's not playing midfield. She's playing halfback or whatever, lockdown halfback, which is just not good from what I have seen from her. I don't even, did she play midfield in the practice game? I'm just going to search through a little bit of stuff. So I might take a minute to find the data there around that. And Corey's probably going to find it quicker. He probably knows what exactly I'm looking for. The sort of CBAs for the, if you can find that, Corey, the CBAs for the West Coast versus Fremantle game. I don't even think he did, saying that, I don't even think he did the CBAs for the West Coast midfielders, because it was that there was no one there. There wasn't Roberts. I don't think there was their starting three midfielders, now remembering back. So he didn't even bother doing the CBAs, and still Swanson played in defense. So I think that's the big indicator that Swanson, even with 3 outs of the midfield, their main 3 outs, didn't play midfield. Then I wouldn't be going there with her. I'd almost rather the Lou Painter, who I talked about in the midfielders rookie section of that video, because she might get a little run in the midfield depending on injuries and stuff like that. So yeah, I do sort of understand the want to be different, but I'd also stress that there's a difference between wanting to be different and taking away your full flexibility, because yeah, I think there's an ability to win it doing the strategy that you're doing, but there's also a massive ability that you bomb out in almost game round one, and it's like season over already just off the back of that, because you have limited flexibility. Because I'm almost going into this year being like, I'm going to get a pick wrong. I'm going to get a pick here wrong. But I want the ability to correct that mistake rather than be pigeonholed into the mistake, which can derail a season, is probably the way that I best put it of what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I just don't think Swanson as a defender will do too bad, too good, I should say. Because if we look here, you can see that her points just dropped off directly, basically because of the CBAs. She had one game where she had CBAs, but that was about it. But she had other games where she had no CBAs, basically no kick-ins, and she had a 75 there, here and there. But that's almost what you want out of a defender. And she was going 61, 63, 61 again, then 40, and back to the mid-60s. It's just like that. It's just not going to get you anywhere. So that's why I would really be looking away from Swanson to someone else in particular there. I will say there isn't much more to really go through in this live stream. There will be a lot more next week because we'll go through each individual game. We'll hunt out the value. I think there will be a lot more people on as well next week because it's getting closer to the season, etc. I'll try and line up special guests as well because it makes these live streams a lot better. But I don't think if there's any last questions on this live stream from you guys, or else I will end it and we will see you guys back here for the live stream next Wednesday night. So yeah, I can't see any last questions there. And I guess on that note, I will see you guys next week for another AFLW Fantasy live stream on Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. again. But anyway, I will see you guys next